terrifying statistic that we've all heard. Nearly 1 in 2 people will develop some form of cancer in their lifetime. But what if the difference between recovery and decline isn't just about the chemotherapy or the radiation? What if it's also about a fundamental choice, a decision between merely existing and actually living? Today, we're looking at the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern survival. We're exploring how traditional Chinese medicine views the human spirit not just as a passenger, but as the driver of physical health. And we're asking a hard question. Can boredom actually kill you?
That is the question. And to be clear, we aren't talking about being bored on a Sunday afternoon. We are talking about existential stagnation, the kind of deep, spiritual boredom where the life force, what the Chinese call qi, stops circulating because the person has stopped engaging with their own purpose. It's a concept that sounds abstract until you see it manifest as physical pathology.
It's heavy stuff, but it's fascinating because it reframes illness. Instead of illness just being this random biological accident, it suggests there's a biographical component to it. Our source material today revolves around the work of Dr. Robin Tim So, an acupuncture physician based in Australia with over 40 years of clinical experience. He's a longtime associate of Dr. Paul Kellogg from the Empowered Soul Network. The recent conversation really highlighted this idea that the body is always listening to the mind's intent.
Exactly. And Dr. So isn't just speaking from a textbook here. He's speaking from the patient's chair. He was diagnosed with stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer, a diagnosis that, statistically, is often a death sentence. But he viewed it as a result of what he called an exit plan. He realized he had become bored with his life, bored with his work, and essentially his spirit had signaled that it was time to pack up and go. That realization that he was subconsciously orchestrating his own departure was the turning point.
That is such a radical take. I think for a lot of people, that might sound like victim blaming. Oh, you got cancer because you were bored? That feels harsh. But if you dig into the philosophy of traditional Chinese medicine or TCM, it's not about blame, is it? It's about energy flow.
Precisely. It's not moral judgment, it's mechanics. In TCM, health is defined by the smooth flow of qi. When you are inspired, passionate, and engaged, that energy moves vigorously. It supports the immune system. It regenerates cells. When you are stuck, resentful, or just checking boxes, that's stagnation. And in Chinese medicine, stagnation is the root of almost all pain and disease. So Dr. So's perspective is that his boredom created a stagnation so profound it allowed cancer to take root. His recovery wasn't just about medical intervention, it was about canceling that exit plan and finding a reason to stay.
So let's break down the mechanics of this self-healing concept he talks about. He made a really interesting distinction in his conversation with Kellogg. He said, "I don't heal anybody. I am just the instigator." That feels like a massive shift from how we usually view doctors in the West, where the doctor is the mechanic fixing the broken car.
Right. The Western model is often interventional and pharmaceutical. It's here's the problem, here's the drug or surgery to remove it. And that has incredible value, obviously. But Dr. So's point is that the body is a self-repairing organism. If you cut your finger, you don't have to tell the cells to clot or the skin to knit back together. It just does it. Acupuncture, in his view, is just a way to remind the body of that capability when it's forgotten. He uses the needles to stimulate the flow of energy to specific areas, essentially saying to the body, hey, look over here, you need to fix this.
He mentioned something about the sea of tranquility. Is that a poetic phrase or a specific medical term in acupuncture?
It's a bit of both. In acupuncture, there is a point often referred to in relation to the Sea of Tranquility, Ren 17, located on the center of the chest. It's deeply connected to the emotional heart and the respiratory system.
But Dr. So uses it more broadly to describe a state of being. He talks about guiding patients out of their conditioning, the stress, the ego, the daily grind, and back into this safe harbor within themselves. He argues that healing can only happen when the nervous system switches from that fight or flight sympathetic state into the parasympathetic rest and digest state. That sea of tranquility is the physiological zone where repair happens.
And that connects back to the cancer patient he mentioned. He talked about a woman who had learned to be stressful in her first 7 years of life. That's a very specific window, 0 to 7. Why is that age range so critical in this context?
Developmental psychologists and neuroscientists often point to the first 7 years as the imprinting phase. During this time, a child's brain is in a theta wave state, hypnotic, highly absorbable. They download behaviors, emotional patterns, and beliefs about safety directly from their environment without a filter. If a child learns that the world is unsafe or that they need to be hyper-vigilant to survive, that becomes their baseline operating system. Dr. So is suggesting that this woman's cancer wasn't just a physical anomaly, it was the long-term biological cost of running a high-stress program she downloaded as a toddler.
It's fascinating, but it's also daunting. If our operating system is hardwired by age 7, how do we rewrite it at age 50, especially when facing a crisis like cancer?
That's where the choice comes in. Dr. So emphasizes that you have to consciously choose to live. It sounds simple, but it requires breaking the addiction to the old self. He talks about the game of life playing the person rather than the person playing the game. When he faced his own mortality, he had to admit he was bored. He had to find a new challenge. Now, at 70, his challenge is helping others cross that same bridge. He set a goal for 2025 to help 10 people with stage 4 cancer turn the corner. That goal gives him the chi, the life force, to keep going. He essentially hacked his own biology by finding a new purpose.
There's a tension here, though, that I want to explore. He talks about helping people, but he also accepts that some people might choose to die. He told a story about a patient he worked with who passed away the next day, and the son called to thank him. That seems contradictory to the goal of healing, doesn't it?
Only if you define healing strictly as staying alive in this body. In the holistic view, and certainly in many spiritual traditions, healing is about becoming whole. Sometimes becoming whole means completing your journey and leaving the physical form with peace and resolution. Dr. So's intervention with that patient wasn't about forcing the body to hold on. It was about clearing the fear and the baggage so the soul could move on without trauma. That's a form of healing too. It's what he calls clearing the pathway. It's a very nuanced view that rejects the Western medical idea that death is always a failure.
That's a critical distinction. Western medicine is a war against death. Traditional medicine, at least in this context, seems to be a negotiation with life. But let's ground this a bit. Dr. So has been practicing for 44 years. He's seen the shift in how people approach health. One thing that struck me was his advice on finding a practitioner. He said he doesn't like working with receptionists anymore.
Yeah, that was a great practical nugget. He believes the healing relationship starts the moment you make contact. If you can't talk to the healer directly, if there's a bureaucratic wall, you're already creating separation. He wants to know if he resonates with the patient before they even walk in the door. It's about energetic compatibility. If you don't click with your doctor or acupuncturist, the treatment won't be as effective because trust is a physiological state. Trust lowers cortisol. Trust opens the body to receive. So his advice is, call them. If they won't talk to you, find someone else.
That's actually really empowering advice for anyone navigating the healthcare system. We're so used to being deferential to doctors, taking whoever is in the network, sitting in the waiting room for an hour. He's flipping the power dynamic. He's saying, you are hiring a partner for your health. Interview them.
Exactly, and that goes back to his core philosophy. Don't give your power away. He warned against believing the practitioner will do it all for you. If you rely entirely on the doctor, you create a dependency that weakens your own resilience. It's a collaboration. You bring the intent to heal, they bring the tools and the map, but you have to drive the car.
I want to pivot back to this idea of longevity. Dr. So mentioned research suggesting humans are designed to live to 110 or 120. Is that scientifically sound, or is that more of a spiritual aspiration?
It's actually grounded in biological theory. The Hayflick limit suggests that human cells can divide a certain number of times, putting the maximum human lifespan potentially around 115 to 120 years. We see supercentenarians reaching these ages. Jean Calment lived to 122, so the hardware is capable of it. Dr. So's argument is that we burn out the hardware prematurely through stress, toxicity, and, crucially, a lack of life force or will to live. He believes that if you stay in that flow state where you are constantly regenerating energy through passion and purpose, age becomes just a number. It's about minimizing the friction that wears down the machine.
The flow state. That's a term we hear a lot in productivity circles, usually about coding or writing. But applying it to biological survival is profound. It implies that engagement with life is a nutrient, just like vitamin C or protein. If you are deficient in interest in life, your body starts to shut down.
That is the perfect way to put it. Engagement is a nutrient. Think about retirement. We see this statistical spike in mortality among men specifically, often within a few years of retirement. They lose their role, their perceived utility, their reason to be. The body reads that signal as job done and begins the shutdown sequence. Dr. So's own experience with cancer was exactly this. He felt he had done what he came to do, he got bored, and the exit plan initiated. He had to consciously create a new job description for his soul to reverse the physical process.
It makes you wonder how many of us are walking around with a low-level exit plan, running in the background just because we're uninspired. It's a wake-up call. But Dr. So is also a realist. He acknowledges he doesn't love the aging process.
He was very honest about that, wasn't he? He's not sugarcoating it. He says, I don't love it, but I acknowledge it. That acceptance is key. Fighting reality causes stress. Accepting reality allows you to navigate it. He's 70, he's a father to an 18-year-old daughter, and he's planning his next decade of work. He's integrating the limitations of the body with the limitlessness of the spirit. That's the balance.
Let's talk about the Sea of Tranquility again, in a practical sense. For listeners who aren't going to get acupuncture tomorrow, how do they access that state? Did he offer any clues on how to self-regulate?
He mentioned that the patient he treated realized, oh, we do that in meditation. So the pathway is accessible through mindfulness. It's about consciously shifting your internal environment. It could be breath work, it could be spending time in nature, or it could be deep, immersive, creative work. The goal is to get to a place where the internal noise stops. That silence is where the body's intelligence takes over. You can't think your way to healing. You have to feel your way into that safety zone so the body can do its work.
It reminds me of the placebo effect, which is often dismissed as fake medicine, but really the placebo effect is just proof that the mind can trigger healing mechanisms without chemical intervention. Dr. So is essentially teaching people how to harness that power consciously.
100%. The placebo effect is the gold standard of self-healing. It's the body responding to the belief that it is being helped. Dr. So creates that belief structure through his presence, his needles, and his coaching. He's helping the patient authorize their own recovery. He said, the God force in me respects the God force in you. That's a powerful clinical stance. It elevates the patient from a broken machine to a divine equal capable of miracles.
And he's doing this globally now. He mentioned coaching people online, tapping into their energy remotely. That sounds a bit woo-woo for some people. How does he explain that mechanism?
He relies on the concept of non-local consciousness, which is something quantum physics touches on, the idea that connection isn't limited by physical proximity. If everything is energy and intention directs energy,
then distance is irrelevant. He says as long as he has the permission of the person, he can tune in. It's similar to how you might sense a close friend is in trouble before they call you. He's just refined that intuition into a diagnostic tool over 44 years. He calls it tapping it until bang, it hits him in the third eye, and he gets the download of what's wrong.
It's intuition as a skill, not just a random feeling. It's pattern recognition. After 4 decades, he's seen so many bodies and so many emotional patterns that he can likely read the subtle signals much faster than a machine could.
Right. It's mastery, and that's what makes his perspective on his own cancer so compelling. He didn't just treat it medically, he treated it intuitively. He asked, what is the biographical root of this biology? And once he solved the puzzle of his boredom, the biology followed suit. It's a testament to the idea that we are holistic beings. You cannot separate the tumor from the timeline of the person's life.
So, as we wrap up, the big takeaway here seems to be about agency. Whether you're facing a serious diagnosis or just feeling that low-level stagnation, the power lies in your engagement with life. You have to choose to be here.
That's it. You have to audit your own spirit. Are you living or are you executing an exit plan? If you're bored, if you're checking out, your body hears that. The antidote is to find the thing that lights you up, the thing that challenges you. For Dr. So, it was the challenge of helping others survive what he survived. For someone else, it might be gardening or painting or reconnecting with family. But you need a reason to stay that is compelling enough to convince yourselves to keep working.
A reason to stay. That is a beautiful and necessary concept. It shifts health from a chore, eat your kale, go to the gym, to a byproduct of passion. If you love your life, your body will fight to keep you in it.
And that is the ultimate preventative medicine.
This conversation with Dr. Robin Tim So and Paul Kellogg really opens up a new way of looking at our own medical biographies. If you know someone who feels stuck or who needs a reminder of their own power to heal, share this episode with them. Sometimes the right idea at the right time is the best medicine there is.